You're sleeping, and something is crawling on your face. You try to move, but you're too exhausted to react. So you just lie there, hoping it's not eating you. Imagine waking up, not knowing if you will survive the day. Now imagine doing that every single day for 6 months straight. No showers, no bed, no silence, only mud, rats crawling over your body, and the constant echo of explosions in the distance. Could you live like that? Because during World War I, millions of soldiers had no choice. And the most disturbing part is, for many of them, battle was the easiest part. When the war began in 1914, people believed it would be over quickly. They were wrong. Machine guns, heavy artillery, modern weapons that made one thing clear: crossing open ground meant death. And so, one of the most brutal systems of warfare in history was born: trench warfare. Soldiers dug deep into the earth, creating endless lines of trenches stretching for miles. Between enemies, there was a place known as no man's land, a dead zone filled with craters, barbed wire, and bodies. Advancing meant death. Retreating wasn't allowed, so they stayed. Days became weeks, weeks became months, and for many soldiers, the trench became their entire world. Life there wasn't heroic, it was repetitive, filthy, and exhausting. Each day began before sunrise. This moment was called stand to, the most dangerous time of all. Soldiers stood ready, waiting for an attack that could come at any second. The silence was terrifying, because any movement could be your last. After that came routine, if you could even call it that. Repairing walls, draining water, waiting for food, waiting for orders, waiting to survive. Sleep? It wasn't rest, it was collapse. In the mud, cold, wet, filthy, always. The smell was unbearable, a mix of dirt, sweat, waste, and something worse: death. Bodies were buried nearby, sometimes just a few steps away. There was no escape. If the war didn't kill you, the trench tried to. Rats thrived there, but these weren't normal rats. They grew large, feeding on human remains. They crawled over soldiers as they slept and feared nothing. Then came lice, thousands of them, constant itching, infections, fever. A disease spread through the trenches: trench fever. But one condition was even worse: trench foot. Feet stayed wet for days, sometimes weeks. Skin rotted, turned black, swollen, numb. And in many cases, it ended with amputation. And then there were the nights, long, endless nights, where sleep didn't come and silence felt more dangerous than noise, because silence usually meant something was about to happen. Some soldiers would stare into the darkness, waiting, listening for footsteps or whispers or metal moving in the distance. And sometimes they came. Enemy soldiers crossing no man's land in the dark, quiet, slow, invisible, until it was too late. Close combat in the trenches was nothing like the battles people imagine. No formations, no strategy, just chaos. Knives, shovels, bare hands, fighting in the mud, face to face with someone just as terrified as you. There are accounts of soldiers freezing in place, not because they were brave, but because their minds simply shut down.
One soldier once wrote that after weeks in the trench, he stopped feeling human. He described watching a rat eating from a body nearby and realizing he didn't react at all. That scared him more than the war itself, because it meant he was changing. Many soldiers tried to hold on to something, anything that reminded them of home. A photograph, a letter, a memory. Some soldiers would read the same letter over and over again until the paper almost fell apart. Letters from mothers, from wives, from children who didn't understand where their fathers had gone. And sometimes those letters arrived too late, because the man they were written for was already gone. And yet, the war didn't stop. When we think of war, we imagine battles, strategy, victory, glory. But the reality was very different. For millions of soldiers, war wasn't about fighting, it was about surviving, enduring an environment that destroyed both body and mind. The enemy wasn't just the opposing army, it was the mud, the disease, the fear. Real war is nothing like we imagine. It is not fast, it is not clean, and it is certainly not glorious. And while today we look back at it as history, for them it was the present, a present that felt like it would never end. If this changed the way you see history, there are many more stories like this, stories that reveal the side of war that few people ever talk about.